let's start the interview, man. So brief me through all the tools that you have worked on and also list few daily activities that you used to work on.
Yeah, sure. So I've been into this IT industry for the past 5 years. So I started by like initial of my career itself, I started on DevOps. So my early days were doing a CI part where I worked with basic tools like Git, Jenkins, and Maven. And after that, I started with the CD part where like continuous deployment and delivery part where
Okay.
I work with Nexus, Docker, Ansible, and Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
So on an overall average, like from the past 2.5 years, I've been doing the entire CI/CD stack. So
Okay.
that includes Git, Jenkins, Maven, uh, SonarQube,
Mm-hmm.
you can say Docker, Ansible, and Kubernetes. Where I'll just explain the basic CI/CD flow, what I've been working on.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for the SCM management tool, I've been using it.
Uh-huh.
And for build part, we have most of our projects are like Java projects, so we tend to use Maven.
Okay.
And as a part of the code analysis, we were using SonarQube.
Uh-huh.
And for storing artifacts and all, we used to do Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
Since our architecture has Kubernetes,
Okay.
we're using Docker for creating the Docker images as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we were using the Nexus as well for storing the Docker images.
Okay.
And by using the Ansible, we used to write the playbooks and then deploy those particular Docker images onto the Kubernetes.
Okay. Fine.
So this is what I've been working on for the past 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so I'll take each tool and I'll go tool by tool. So I'll ask few questions in each tool and let's see how it goes. Okay. So let's start with Git. So you have worked in Git, right? So whether it's kind of only push, commit, those kind of stuff, or have you worked on admin activities also?
Yeah, not like as a DevOps engineer, we'll be dealing with Git.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the admin activities as well, but not into a complete admin way.
Okay.
I know some of the admin activities that can be performed by a DevOps engineer.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So you said like you have used Git, right? So my question is why we need Git and what makes it as unique from other tools like SVN?
Ideally, we go for a repository or something like a code management tool because we need to have the versioning.
Okay.
Something like, let's say, some release has been happened today, and then there is a bug that has been happened in a particular version that has been there. So we need to identify for that particular release what is the code base that have been used. So if we don't have any code base or like a versioning thing, we cannot make sure like what causes the issue, and then we cannot fix the bug.
Okay.
So that's the reason we'll be going for a version control system.
Okay.
So there are like a number of version control systems like Git, SVN, S3 and all. But the reason why we for Git rather than SVN is like, so let's say if we go with an SVN, it's like a centralized server. So even if we want to do any change, every change that has been done has to directly go to the server.
Okay.
It cannot be stored on your local. You cannot have a copy on your local.
Okay.
But when we say you have Git, you can just clone your repository onto your local. You can just do a number of things on your local, even if the server is disconnected.
Okay.
It's like you have to connect to the server only when it's needed.
Okay.
So
fine.
that's a thing where we go with a Git.
Okay. So let's say here I have a scenario wherein assume like a repo is there, which is basically a Maven repo. So when I do Maven install or Maven package or even Maven deploy, so basically it'll create a target folder. So wherein you'll have jar or war files, artifacts, right? So what my question is like when I do a build, so let's say I have Maven project in my local. So if I do a build and when I'm doing a git commands like git commit, git add, or any git commands, so that target folder shouldn't be considered for all git operations. So what will be your approach?
So I just have a question on this.
Okay.
So ideally we do have Git basically to store the code.
Yeah.
It's like basically the SRC folder or the main or the test directory. So why do you want to have the target directory in Git? Because
That's what my question was. Like, I need to I don't want to push that target directory from local to the Git. I don't want to do that. So how will you avoid that?
So, like, ideally, when we even if we go, before we go to the Maven, that is where we do a commit of my code into the Git.
Yeah,
so in that case, you just have that source directory. Or, so you don't have that, like, until unless you run your Maven command, you don't have a target directory. So
correct.
where does this come into the target? When I run my Maven, when I'm running my Maven, it's like I have cloned the repo. So there is no need for me to push it back again to the Git repository, right?
So my question is, let's say you have cloned it. Okay.
Yes.
Now you did some code changes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you want to verify it in your local. You did mvn install. So that time target folder has been created. Okay. So when I'm trying to push that updated code to Bitbucket or any GitHub or anything, so that target folder shouldn't be considered.
Right. So that's what we can do an rm minus rf and then the target will be deleted, right? It's a simple way.
Okay. So every time you need to say like rm-rf target and then you need to push it.
See, ideally, we are not going to do it manually, right? We are just going to do a run shell script, which will do a clone of the repository, do a clean install, everything is done. Then
fine.
If it is successful, it's going to push it back again to the repo.
Okay.
So that should be okay, right?
Okay, fine. And do you know what is the difference between git pull and git fetch?
Yeah.
So can you tell me that?
So ideally, we do a git pull when let's say I have already cloned the repository that's in my local. I want to get the latest changes.
Okay.
So I do a git. I can do a git pull or I can do a git fetch. So we basically do a git pull because let's say I am at a particular commit, let's say commit number 1. There are a number of commits that have happened by a number of users. So when I do a git pull, all the latest commits that has been done by the other users or myself, that's going to get merged and then commit clone into my local.
Okay.
So that's what pull does. So I want to verify like what commits has been done after my commit. I can do a git fetch.
Okay, fine. So my next question is, so let's say when you clone it, when you do a git clone, a particular repo, so all the branches will be cloned to my local, right? So I don't need to do that. I need to clone only a specific branch. So do you know the command for that?
Yeah, we can do it using git clone -b. I can just give a branch name and then give the git URL. So only that particular branch is cloned.
Okay. So do you think like only that branch will be cloned with this command?
Yeah, but the references of other branches also will be cloned.
Okay, fine. So now let's get into Maven. So can you just give me a brief, like when you do mvn install in your local, so what are all the things will happen?
And only mvn install?
Yeah. So let's say I have a Maven repo. So when I give mvn install, so what all the things will gonna happen?
Ideally, what Maven does is like it has its own life cycle where it goes through a particular life cycle.
Okay.
Even if we miss a particular goal, also it's going to consider that goal and then does the task for us.
Okay.
So what the different types of goals are like? A particular goal is like clean, where it cleans the target directory. Build is a particular goal where it builds try to build the particular file.
Okay.
Install, deploy, all these are particular goals. So even if we miss the line also, it's going to consider that and then goes to the next goal. So in our case, install have a prerequisite of doing a clone and doing a build. So it ideally does the cleaning of the target directory, builds the code,
Uh-huh.
Then when you run the install command, it's going to create a particular var file or a jar file.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that's what ambient install does.
Okay. So, do you know what .m2? So .m2 folder.
Yeah, I have seen it in my local system. Yes.
Okay. So, mbin install will also copy that particular var or jar from your target folder to .m2 also, right? So that is also one more thing it will do, right?
Yes, it will do.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah,
So,
we had a scenario about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a particular form.xml file which had a dependency of a particular jar file.
Okay.
So the job is to run perfectly, and then there was some issue with the particular slave where the job is running.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we are running a Jenkins job which doesn't even build.
Okay.
So when the slave had some issues, we had just changed the slave, and then we have mapped that particular job to another slave.
Okay.
But the job got failed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason was it was not able to fetch a particular jar.
Oh,
Then
okay.
when we went to the Nexus and saw whether the jar was available or not, it was not available.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when we were thinking why did this job success?
Mm-hmm.
So when we went to the old slave where the job was running,
Mm-hmm.
the m2 directory had a copy of the jar file which was used when running this job.
Okay.
So that's the reason the job was running successfully on that particular slave.
Okay. Okay. So, my next question is, ambient deploy, right? So the next phase of ambient install is ambient deploy. So which basically sends a particular var or jar to a SVN or to a JFrog, any artifactory. So if you want to do this, what are all the settings you need to do in your form.xml, and so if any other settings has to be done, so where we need to do that?
So for this ambient deploy, we hadn't done it through the form.xml. We have done it via a plugin in Jenkins. So it's ideally, let's say, our storing of artifacts is done in Nexus.
Okay.
So what we have done was we ideally have the settings.xml file for the Maven, right? So under Maven, settings.xml, we had the servers added where our server ID and password has been stored. So that's the first step. After that, we need to supply a particular set of ad hoc parameters for ambient deploy, where whatever this GAV parameters what we have in the form.xml file. Okay. So those GAV parameters. Then, so since I have added under servers, I'll be having an ID of a particular server. Let's say I have a number of servers. I'll be identifying it via ID in the settings.xml file. Okay. So that particular ID and what is the URL that I have to push it, and what artifact name has to be used. So that's basically the GAP parameters. And if I want to push an artifact with a particular name, and if my ambient clean install is going to generate the var file with a different name, I need to give the file name as well and the file path. Okay. Okay. These things.
Yeah. Okay. So you have built any projects in your local, some Maven projects?
Yes.
So you have observed that, you would have definitely observed that when you do a first time build, so it will take much time. Okay. When you do for the same build for the second time, so it will take very less time. So do you know why it is?
The first time it takes more time, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take less time.
Yeah, that's what. First time it will take more time. And when you do it for the second time, so it will take very less time compared to the first.
Yeah. So, you basically, when Maven does any build, it has three levels of architecture where it fetches the artifacts or the dependencies. One, it fetches it from the local where it is the .md directory. Okay. Or it fetches from the central repo. Okay. Or it goes to the internet and gets it from there. Okay. So ideally, when I do a fresh build, like the first time, it goes to the M2 directory. Okay. It doesn't have anything in M2 directory. It goes to the central repo. So depends on my network bandwidth and all. It depends.
Okay.
So even if it is in my intranet as well, it goes to there and then fetches some of the artifacts or some of the dependencies. If it doesn't have there, it has to go to internet and get it from there.
Okay.
So that's the reason it takes like step 1, step 2, and step 3. Ideally, going to the step 3 and then getting back it will take some time, right?
Yeah.
So
correct.
that's the reason. Like it basically is like a cache.
Okay.
So you try to hit it Google from a normal browser versus you hit google.com from an incognito browser because incognito doesn't have any cache store.
Okay.
So it takes like more amount of time since it has to go to the server and then get the result back. The same case applies here for the Maven as well.
Okay. Okay. So next we'll go into shell scripting and Unix. So you have worked on shell scripting also, right? Shell scripting and obviously Unix you should know as a DevOps engineer. So
right.
Yeah. So how to get present working folder? So present working folder in the sense it's not present working directory. So that means like so let's say so I have a folder root/test1.test. So root/test1/test. So when I execute that particular command, I need to get test as an output. So let's say if I'm there in root/test1, so I should get the output as test1. So do you know the command for that?
Yeah, but it's not a command, but it's a combination of commands.
Okay.
I can say.
Yeah. Okay.
So we know the basic commands like PWD. It basically shows me the present working directory. So whenever I run this PWD, it shows me an output which has a like let's say A under B under C under D.
Yeah.
All the directories are divided by a slash.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm gonna run PWD. Use a pipe symbol and then do a cut symbol where it's like let's say I want a particular field, let's say fifth folder. I can say like cut with a delimiter of like slash and then say print the field file.
Okay.
It's going to show me ideally whenever the folder, whatever the folder we want, that's going to be the last thing, right?
Okay.
So I can go with like let's say 3 or 4. In your case, it's 2, right? So I can go with a field 2.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So let's say you have a cloud-based Linux machine. So I have created a Linux machine in AWS cloud. But I have one file which is sitting in my Windows machine. I need to copy that particular file, to cloud-based Linux machine. So is that possible?
Yes.
So how will you do that?
So how do you want to do that?
So basically many ways are there, whichever the way you will do. So like tell me that.
The simplest way is like having FileZilla, then copy it from one server to other server.
Okay. So I don't, because let's say I don't have any administrator access on my particular local machine. So as it is it's like work related machine. So I don't want to install any tools or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, like for that particular instance, do you have a PPK, like private key file or a PEM file?
Yeah. So obviously it's a cloud, so we have,
right?
yeah.
Then you can do an SCP from that particular instance.
Okay.
To fetch it from here.
Okay.
And since it's a window instance, you have to do maybe you should go with an ESCP, where it's like copying the files from Windows instance to Linux.
Okay.
Fetching a file from Linux to Windows, something like that. We can use PSCP for that.
Okay. So my next scenario is, let's say I have one script, okay. So basically test.sh, let's say the name of the file is test.sh, and it will accept input parameters like 4 input parameters, let's say 4 input parameters. The values might be A, B, C, D, let's say A, B, C, D, okay. So, and the order of this input parameters, we don't know, like it will be the same, or sometimes it will be varied. And also you are not sure about whether you will get 4 parameters always, or you might not get the parameters at all sometime. And sometimes you might get only 2 parameters. Okay. So, but I need to identify the position of letter C. So how will you approach this particular scenario?
Mhm. So you are gonna run it as like /test.sh.
Yeah.
Let's say ABCD.
Yeah, correct.
That's how you're gonna run.
Yeah.
So ideally, what shell script does is like whatever the parameters you give it after .sh. So the first thing what shell script says is like the first value what you give, it's going to take it as a first parameter. Second as second, and third as third, and then like fourth as fourth. So you are saying like it may be if you may give the values or you may not give the values.
Sometimes the order of letters may also change. I can give A, C, D and B at the last. So now I should get 4 as output. So if I give B, A, C, D, then I should get 1 as output because it's there in the first position.
Sorry?
So when I supply test.sh, B, A, C, D, so then B is at the first position, right? So I need to get 1 as output. So if I supply A, C, D, at the last if I supply B, so then I should get 4 as output.
Okay. So one thing what we can do is like take the count of the parameters that has been supplied.
Okay.
So
how would you do that? Like count?
We can say like $# something like that.
Okay.
Where it's going to count the number of parameters. So based on the number of parameters, we can write a for loop. Internally, it's going to do an if loop where it will verify what's the first parameter, what's the second parameter, what's the third parameter.
Okay.
So ideally, this if loop will run inside a for loop, right? So for that for loop, the input, the for loop, how many times it has to run, it depends on the parameters. Let's say in our case, it's 3 parameters. The for loop will run for 3 times, which internally will have the if loop saying like what is the value that's been provided and check for that particular position and then do an echo statement where it shows like, okay, this parameter has been first sent, like these are the parameters that has been sent, or this is the position of this parameter. Okay. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'll jump on to Ansible. So have you worked on Ansible, right? Like
yes.
Okay. So have you worked on adopt commands? Ansible adopt commands?
Yeah.
So why we need adopt commands? And just give me a simple adopt command so wherein you have used in your workplace or like for a practice or wherever.
Ideally we go with an Ansible. Let's say I want to do an install or do a deployment on like n number of servers. So ideal way is like we just have all the IPs or IPs of all these addresses and the way we connect to this these addresses under the host file. And then we just run the Ansible playbook so that it does the deployment or whatever task that has been assigned on all these n number of instances. But the first thing what has to be done is like you have to verify whether there is an SSH connectivity to these instances or not. So the only way we can do an SSH whether like we cannot the thing is like if we want to run the Ansible playbook, we need to identify whether I'll be able to reach that server or not. So if I'm not able to reach that particular server, so it's like a waste of time. It's not like a waste of time. It's like even if my playbook is entirely ready, I cannot go and showcase saying like this is the playbook which can be run on these instances without me trying it on them. So maybe we can have a basic command like ping where it does the ping of all these instances. If the ping is successful, then maybe I can say like, okay, my ping is ready so that my connectivity is established. Then if I run my playbook, it's going to do the task what my playbook is saying or like what the task is assigned for. So that's one basic ad hoc command. It's a pretty basic ad hoc command.
Yeah, that's fine. So let's say I have when you do hyphen so Ansible playbook and if you give the playbook name with a inventory file. So it will run you, it will generate a lot of logs, right? So let's say I want it in a detail. So I need to know what are all the things so in background it is happening. I want to get a detailed output. So when you run Ansible playbook and a playbook name, if you give, so do you know what option we need to use?
Like what each step is doing, something like that.
Yeah. So when you run Ansible -playbook and so if you give the playbook name, so it will generate a lot of logs. So it will basically give a brief about what are all the steps it is doing. So I want to get the detailed execution output.
So that's what why we use the name as a tag, right, for a particular command. So let's say I have a number of commands on my playbook. Each command I write, I'm going to use the name module, right? So I know what my command is doing. So
No, not about that. See, when you're let's say you're copying some folder or some file, okay, to a particular machine. So let's say you're copying some war file from one machine to another machine. That's fine. You have used a copy module. It will gonna copy from one machine to other machine. So I want to see whether what connection, what handshake signals that's doing, and what are all the other activities that it is doing. So I need to see the detailed output, right? So
I have tried it, but not sure whether this is correct or not.
Okay.
Maybe we can use something like what do you say, verbose mode where -v.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
3v something like that, where it shows. Verbose mode is what. Something like verbose mode.
Okay. So do you know what is Ansible.cfg?
But which Ansible.cfg you are talking about?
So basically, in Ansible, so there will be host file, Ansible.cfg file. So
there are like 2 to 3 types of Ansible.cfg files.
Explain me all the 2 to 3 types of Ansible.cfg.
Okay. So let's say I have a machine. It's my own instance. So I do install the Ansible.
Okay.
So when I install the Ansible, it's like I have the root credentials over my instance.
Okay.
So I can go to cd/etc and then get the Ansible.cfg file. Or if I want to do anything, just do a changes, I can do directly vi and then change the file. But in production instances, everybody or like all the people will not be having the access to the Ansible.cfg under the etc file. So there is something called .ansible.cfg which will be added under your local directory.
Okay.
It's like your local.ansible.cfg file.
Okay.
So it's like a clone of the actual Ansible.cfg file, where the rules that has been there in Ansible.cfg will be inherited to this file. But whatever the changes you do here will not be reflected there.
Okay.
It's like the changes what you do will be for yourself. So when you run your Ansible playbook with this particular Ansible.cfg, with the .ansible.cfg file, only when you run, those changes will get done. Just a basic example, I have a roles path.
Okay.
So in my local, I do store roles under my home directory, home Nagraj roles. So I do this change in my .ansible.cfg file and then say like I run the playbook, it's going to get success.
Okay.
I give the same role to some other else. He tries to run it. It gets failed because he don't have any .ansible.cfg file and he cannot edit the Ansible.cfg file under the etc folder. So that's where this .ansible.cfg file helps.
Okay.
So that's I guess like you understood what I mean, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And so what are all the modules that you have used in your work?
One thing I said about the ping is a one module.
Okay.
Shell command, file, line in file, get, notify, register, output.
Okay.
That's what I can easily.
So let's say I'm running from an Ansible master. So I need to download a file, not downloading. So there is some file which is in the client. Okay. So some of the nodes. I'm there in I'm running a playbook in master. Okay. So obviously you need to run in Ansible master itself. So something is there in node. So some bar file or jar file. I need to copy that particular var file to my Ansible master. So which module you'll use?
It's like you want to do a reverse copy, something like that?
Yeah.
We can use command module and then write the SCP command so that it will do the stuff.
So is this the only one way? Is there any other module which Ansible gives?
There might be ways.
Sorry?
There might be ways, but ideally we use like the SCP command and then like whatever we have done for the TCP way.
Okay.
Similar command module or the shell module because we use it and then get the files from the servers.
Okay. Fine. And have one more question. So in Ansible itself, so let's say you want to execute something on your local machine. So when it should be in the same playbook. Okay. So few tasks should run in my local and few tasks should run in another nodes, whatever you have configured, right? So on that, like first two tasks, let's say first two tasks it should run on my Ansible master, and so other few tasks, like let's say other three tasks, it should run on your nodes.
You can group it in the host file.
That's fine. You can host file is fine. Like there you'll specify where I need to run your all modules and all. My question is like there are 5 tasks, okay, in Ansible playbook. So first two tasks should run in my Ansible master, and other 3 should run on my nodes.
That's what we use groups for, right? We can specify the groups there.
Okay.
Like, there's something called like when module where I can say like if this particular node is equal to this group name, run it there. Or like let's say group 1 and group 2. Under the task, I can say like when this is equal to this and then run it on it. And for the remaining 3 tasks, I can say like when it is on this and then run it on it.
Okay, that's fine. And so let's jump on to Jenkins. Okay. So as we know, Jenkins, when you install on particular machine, so memory will be the big issue. So when you create many jobs, so obviously it will acquire much space. Like if it is like if 100 jobs are there, so it will if I mean everyone is building for minimal time, so it will generate a lot of builds, and we need to store that in my host machine. So it will be a big issue, right? So let's say for instance I say I just want last 5 builds. I just want to store only the last 5 builds of each job. So how would you do this?
It's pretty simple configuration in the job itself.
Okay.
You can just go under the job. Like when I do a config of my job, I can like enable the discard build option and then say like I want just the past 5 builds or like past 10 builds.
Okay.
It will do the stuff for me.
Okay. So have you worked on Jenkins file?
Yes.
So can we use a Docker for build? So building a project?
You mean as a node?
Yeah, as a node.
The Docker node.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So let's say I have a Maven project. So when I want to build that, so obviously you said like Docker can be used as a node. So for that, like I need to create container and deletion of container. So all these activities will be taken care by you, or it will be taken care by Jenkins.
I mean, when image giving will be in my hands, but fetching the image and then running a container will be in the hands of Jenkins. Okay.
Once the build is successful, so what will happen for that container?
It's going to get destroyed.
Okay. So now I have a question. Let's say I have a Maven project. So when you want to build it, so obviously every time it's a fresh instance, right? As you mentioned, at the end of the build, if the build is successful, so that container will be deleted. Okay. So let's say I have a Maven project. So when I trigger a build, every time it will create a new container and it will delete a container at the end of my successful build, right? So let's say I have a situation wherein so I don't need to download dependencies every time, because as Docker container is a fresh instance for every time, so it will download all the dependencies, correct?
Yes.
So I need to avoid that. So I don't want to do that. So because it is taking much time, and also I need to download. So that is also a matter. If my network if my network is slow, it will take more time. And even though that is the problem, so I don't want to download it many times whenever I trigger a build. So I want to keep my build time from the second time, let's say less than 5 minutes. So means it should be lesser than the first build. So how Maven works, right? So I wanted to implement that in this situation.
I can see one option for this. So we have something called volumes in Docker.
Okay.
So whenever I write my Jenkins file, I'm going to give the agent as my Docker image, which is a pretty new, like the same Docker image what I'm going to use.
Okay.
I can specify a particular volume. So where my .m2 directory is located onto my local to be mapped into a particular path inside the Docker container, which is going to spin.
Okay.
So it's basically .m2 is where all my repository Maven related information will be available. So if I can map that particular local M2 with the M2 which is inside the Docker container, I feel like the time can be reduced.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. And have you worked in multi-branch pipeline job?
Yeah, but not much. Yes.
Okay. So tell me, why we need multi-branch, basically?
Why do we need multi-branch?
Yeah.
Okay. Multi-branch.
Okay, that's fine. So let's say.
Wait.
Okay.
I'm thinking of it.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll jump on to the next question. Next question. Yeah. So let's say I have a Jenkins instance which you have installed locally. Okay. So somehow you have forgotten your username and password. Okay. But I want to somehow log in. So I don't have password and username to keep in mind. I've forgotten. So how would you do that?
So whatever the Jenkins that has been installed, it will have a particular file called server.xml where all the details will be stored.
Okay.
Even if it's the HTTP protocol or what port it is being used, what IP it is getting installed, what Java version, what memory that has been allocated.
Okay.
All this information from the server.xml. We can fetch it from the server.xml what the admin credentials are, and then change the credentials from the front end.
Okay, fine. So let's jump onto Docker now. So can you just tell me what are all the best practices that we need to use in Docker? So you can just list me 2 or 3. That's all. That is enough.
Yeah. The first thing is Docker has a client and a server version, which is like Docker client that has been installed. Even the server will be installed, which is called Docker daemon. So that's the reason whenever we run the Docker version, if we get the Docker daemon time so that it's hitting the Docker daemon, it's basically trying to hit the server, but it is not able to.
Okay.
So everything that you do with the Docker client has to go to the server and then come back with a response. That's a basic concept how Docker works.
Okay.
So if I want to do a Docker build, I do write a Docker file and then run the Docker build saying this is path of the Docker file.
Okay.
So as I said, everything has to go from the client to the server. When I run my Docker file, whatever that is there in the directory where the Docker file is present, everything will go to the Docker daemon and then get a response from the backend to say like whether it's built successful or not.
Okay.
So when we have, let's say, 1 GB, let's say there is some particular movie that you have downloaded, or let's say there is a particular WAR file that has been available for some reason, you have just copied it, which can be used for your reference. So when you do a Docker build from that particular folder, even that WAR file will be sent to the Docker daemon and then come back, which will take a lot of amount of time. So we need to make sure our working directory will have only the dependencies which are needed for the Docker file. For the current Docker file which is needed, the dependencies should be available. All the other files should be removed or like moved into some other directory.
Okay.
And one more thing is, so there is something called run versus CMD, the ideal case. So we can use only one CMD module. More than one CMD will not work.
Okay.
That's how Docker works.
Okay.
So let's say we have to run a number of commands. What we do is like we select it. I want to make a directory, run some commands, download tar, run some shell script. We ideally go with n number of runs. So if we go with n number of runs, it's going to add n number of layers, which basically increasing the size of your Docker image.
Okay.
So we go with one run and then write a shell script and then supply that to the shell script, whatever you want to do it.
Okay.
Entire thing will be done in one run stage.
Okay.
Or like one run layer, which will reduce your size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. So can you tell me the differences between, so what is, like Docker stop and Docker kill?
How do stop and kill work in Unix? The same applicable in Docker as well. So it's like when you do a stop of a container, it's like stopping so that I can, whenever I want, I can go start it again. Like if I just do a kill, I cannot have the traceback if I want to start it from like at the stage where I stopped.
Okay.
If I kill the container, I cannot have it right.
Okay.
If I can stop it and then like I want to break for some time and then come back again and then work on it. I can do a Docker restart and then the same container with all my work will be available. I can do it from there rather than doing it from the start.
Okay, that's fine. And so, do you know command to list all the containers, which status exited?
Docker PS will show me running as well as exited, but you want only exited.
Yeah.
PS is for sure. That's for the containers. I think Docker PS.
Okay, that's fine.
Show me the stop containers.
Yeah, that's fine. So let's say I have a many containers which has been stored, and so I have something dongling images, unused networks. So I want to delete those things. I need to clean up my Docker host basically. So what will be the command that you're gonna use?
So one typical way of doing it is like running a shell script where just copying all the images available and then giving it to the Docker RMI command, and which will do the delete of the images. Similar for the containers and similar for the networks. But that's a typical way of doing it by the shell script.
Okay.
Or you want to do it by a Docker?
Yeah, I don't want the shell script because when I do Docker ps-eq or something, so it will give me the list of all images. I mean, all the containers, all the images. I don't want to loop through that. So I just need a command. So basically to basic cleanup, stopped containers, like dangling images, those kind of stuff.
There is this particular command called, what's it called? We can run Docker system prune, which will system prune will basically clear all the unwanted stuff that hasn't been used by Docker.
Okay.
That's hasn't been used. Yes.
That's fine. And So what version of Docker you have used?
Not pretty recent version, but sometime older version, which is like 18.03, something like that.
Any specific reason for that?
That's how Docker works. It's his own versioning.
No. That versioning is fine. So I just wanted to know any specific reason, like you have used only 18.06. Why not 18.09?
Ideally, we go with two versions past, like previous to the current version. So the one what I can see is like 18.09 is the pretty latest one.
Okay.
So that's where we go with 18.03. In fact, we were with 17.06 and then we recently moved it to 18.03.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. And can we have multiple CMDs in a Docker file?
No, that's what I said, right? So even if we have multiple CMDs, it's going to make it as a one, and then it doesn't count what we have written in the CMDs. Okay. So that's where we go with the multiple runs, or like even if that's not a good practice, but if you want to achieve something, that's where we go with the run. Ideally, what like both this RUN and the CMD will do the same thing. The only difference is like you can have multiple runs and then we cannot have multiple CMDs.
Okay.
So when if you go with the multiple CMDs, it's like it doesn't throw any error, but you will not get the output what you have this, or like what you feel that you should get.
Okay, that's
so
fine.
That's one reason we like if we use multiple CMDs, that's what you finally get.
Okay. So can you do you know what is Docker Swarm?
No, I didn't know Docker Swarm.
Compose, Docker Compose?
No.
Okay, that's fine. And so let's jump out of Kubernetes. So my first question in Kubernetes is like, can we have multiple containers in a pod?
Yes.
Can we have a same container? Same container for 2 times in the same pod?
Yes.
Okay, and so let's say I have 4 containers in my particular pod. Okay, and one of them has failed. Okay, so how will you identify which particular container has been failed?
As you said, it's a container. We can do a Docker -a, which will show me the executed containers. So I can match the name with the container that's available, what I've given it. So that will show me what containers have been executed.
Okay. So you'll do basically Docker ps-a.
Yeah, ps-a.
Okay. So do you know what is liveness and readiness probe?
Yes. Yeah, ma'am.
So why we need to use them?
So that's a pretty minor difference what we have between readiness and liveness. So when you say so let's take an example of Jenkins. So there are many ways how do you install Jenkins. So let's say run like Java or like systemctl install Jenkins. It says like the Jenkins installation is completed, some output and all. So I just go to the UI and then say like IP address followed by 8084, which is the default port. I hit it. It says like it just keeps on loading. It doesn't give me the UI.
Okay.
So, but when you see like the process is running, whether the process is running on not in the backend, it says like the process is ready. So it's like your application is ready, but you are not able to hit it. So that's not good, right?
Yeah.
So I need to wait for some more time till my application comes up, and then the end user says like, okay, it's working, and then you can close. Sorry, then like, okay, I'm fine, I'm good, and I'm working on it.
Okay.
So there is like pretty basic difference where like you say an application is ready or an application is live.
Yeah.
So the same thing applicable in Kubernetes. So you say like my pod is up and running, then end user says I'm not able to hit it. So you need to have something called liveness and readiness probe saying like when my application is ready, go and hit this page saying like, okay, my application is ready. What next?
Okay.
So entire thing has to take gonna take some time if I'm doing some database queries which should pop up some UI in the front end.
Okay.
So for that particular things to get it from the database, it need to wait for like some 5 seconds or like 10 seconds so that my application is live.
Okay.
So if the end user is able to access, I say like my application is live. If say like my process is running up and running and my pod is running, I say like my pod is ready.
Okay.
So it's like ready and live or basic like similar terms where it has a minor difference. So that's what liveness pro. So that is what we monitor in the pod itself.
Okay.
Saying like when my pod is ready, okay, just go and hit this space saying like my pod is ready.
Okay.
And after 5 to 10 seconds of time, go to this particular slash UI and then see whether the UI is coming up or not. Then say like my pod is live. So
Okay.
that's what you have the difference between live and ready.
Okay, fine. So have you worked on any monitoring tool, Kubernetes monitoring tool?
Yeah, but not deep into this monitoring tools.
Okay, fine, no issues. So what are all the tools you have used?
I have used Prometheus and Grafana.
Okay.
Yeah, Prometheus and Grafana are what we have in our project.
Okay, that's fine. And so my last question, so can we deploy a pod on a particular node? So let's say we have a Kubernetes cluster, so we have 10 nodes. Okay, so I want to deploy a particular pod because of some reasons. I need to deploy a particular pod onto a particular node. So is that possible in Kubernetes?
Yeah.
What do you need to do for that?
We have something called labelings for a node.
Okay.
So we can use that labels and then restrict a particular pod into a particular node. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. That's all. Good talking to you. So I'll let you know the feedback. Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Sure. Yeah. Bye.